We're Batman at 89.
Hello and welcome once again to Batminute 89, the show that combs through lists and lists of names over and over and over and over. 3 days a week, for a little while at least anyway, until you're free from our clutches. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
I am the other host, Niall McGowan. To be fair, it's only like 1 week. It hasn't.
Yeah, we're right back in these credits. And, you're joining us for the ride, and this is where the insanity begins, I think. This is where it's all going to go off the rails. And we are joined today by actor, comic, and YouTuber Jessi Milestone. Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Woo!
Are
Are you excited about the credits?
I am so stoked. I don't think I've ever been more excited for anything in my entire life.
I think I remember when we asked you what minutes you wanted, and you way months ago, you said, "Can I get the minute of credits that starts with Barbara Kalish and then ends with Shirley Walker?" Like, yeah, that'd be great.
Exactly. I want the minute of credits that has not really anybody of note in this film, please.
Oh, you think that's
that's actually not true at all. I did my reading. There's plenty of interesting folk running across the
You
screen.
probably did more than me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so well, this is minute 119, and as we've alluded to, it starts with credits and it ends with credits. You may also know that, like, from the sound of my voice, I am very ill. So do please send sweets and chocolates and flowers.
The thing is, though,
I would appreciate that.
By the time this airs, you'll be probably all right again. You'll be like, "Oh, people sending me all this for," but
I'll take it. I don't care. It'll have all been worth it if I get chocolate.
Clearly just a ploy for free candy.
Yeah, I'm putting this on, to be honest. But I picked out a couple of interesting credits, but I didn't want to go diving into every single name I could see.
Why not?
I'm very lazy.
Excellent reason.
I was just going for the ones that just sounded like the most unusual. It's like, that's a name you don't see every day.
Well, I mean, I started in earnest because Barbara Kalish, I'm assuming that's how you say it.
Yeah.
I did look her up because I was sitting here thinking, like, I am not actually in the movie industry, and I don't know what an associate producer is.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, it sounds really important. I'll look it up. It's the assistant to the producer. It's literally that simple.
Yep.
But she has only ever been the assistant producer twice, which I thought was upsetting. Like, she's worked on this and on Tango and Cash, which is very strange. Yeah, but she did have a few other sort of minor roles that she worked in. She worked on Caddyshack 2, which I didn't even know existed.
I unfortunately did, but I've never seen it and don't think I ever did. The thing with associate producers is a lot of times they don't actually do work on the film. They're just investors. So they're like, this film seems good. I want it to happen. Let me throw some money at it. And that's kind of all they end up doing.
So it's the kind of thing I would do if I won the lottery.
Basically.
And just threw cash at movies.
Yeah, you decided, hey, I want my name on this film. So here you go.
Okay.
But I mean, she worked as an assistant to John Peters. So it was assistant to him on Caddyshack 2. And The Witches of Eastwick, of course, with Saucy Jack there. And
I have an Everything's Connected now.
Oh.
Hashtag Everything's Connected.
There we go.
She was the producer's secretary on Chinatown with Jack
Nicholson. Maybe she just
connected.
Follows Jack around.
But she also worked as the assistant to Robert Evans on Popeye and Urban Cowboy. Robert Evans is a proper Hollywood legend. So like she's been playing about with him, and then John Peters is a bit more of a sleazebag, but still influential guy. One of the things we always ask our guests is like when I was younger, I was always apparently misled in thinking that Jack Nicholson was regarded as being a bit of a sexy guy, like a man that the ladies loved. Did you ever find Jack Nicholson attractive?
No.
In any manner?
So, it's funny, especially regarding this movie. So no, I mean, not even not even like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think there was a lot in that character I found incredibly charming and incredibly. I found the character attractive and the things he put out attractive. I do not find him physically attractive. Now that said, I have a bit of a villainy fetish. So for me, actually, his Joker, even with all the crazy makeup, etc., is some of the most attractive I've ever found him. Just because I love a good villain. I love a good villain. So he kind of
Who doesn't?
Yeah, kind of does it for me, with the big red smile and the green hair.
I do know, like when Zoe was on, she had a bit of a thing for Joker Nicholson as well. She was like, I think as the week went on with her, it was very much more. She was only really interested in the Joker in many ways. Just like, I love everything about him.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie, like.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm not on the rest of the movie, but I do think it has a lot of issues. I think the writing, and it was almost like it was written for the Joker, and the writer was like, on everything else. Because, I think the characters are good. Keaton's not my favorite Bruce Wayne. I actually like him better as in the bat suit than I like him as the Bruce Wayne. And I think a big part of that for me is that they just didn't develop him enough. I think all the pieces were there, but there was a lot of sort of plot jumps in his development, in his relationship with Vicky, and it sort of just skipped along, and we missed a lot of pieces there. So I'm just supposed to accept him there, and he gets, probably less screen time than Jack Nicholson does. So you're saying, like, all right, accept this super deep, brooding, dark guy based on these, 5 little facts about his life we've told you, and just understand that the depth is there, accept that, move on. Great, back to Jack. So
I think that is the character in this one, for good or ill.
Yeah.
He is a blank slate because he's never kind of grown up. He can't become a person. He can't become a man. He's just Batman.
Yeah.
Whether that makes a good film or not is another matter.
I think that we just needed a little more time. Almost if you add 15 minutes in the beginning of him going on a date that just doesn't work out because the woman can't connect with him at all, something like that, to just
that'd be good.
Just get us into his head a little bit more, have us feel for him, because we get almost more of Vicky, and we do get more of Vicky in the beginning, and so you're almost seeing him through her perspective a little bit. And the problem is when he shuts her out, we get shut out as well. So I think if you just had a little bit, I think the best scene they have is the one in the beginning where he's following the two of them in his, armor room. I think that's sort of the most revealing bit about him. But I almost want just a little more of watching him try to fit in with people and not succeeding. I think just like a little bit more in the beginning there would have sort of got us feeling with him a little bit harder.
Yeah, okay, I can see that, because it does establish that he's not a people person, but it doesn't really go into it. Like, he has a party, but he doesn't really hang out at the party.
Yeah.
But he doesn't sort of go into why and
exactly
have him kind of, looking awkward and trying to get out of it and things.
Yeah.
I guess we've had more time because we literally looked at 118 more episodes worth of the psychology of Bruce Wayne in this movie and delving into Keaton's performance. So I'm very sold. I think he's fantastic. I think they did a great job with him. And a lot of it is stuff you have to kind of read between the lines. Like, in terms of looking at it, you'd notice that things like Bruce Wayne had a chair at Harvey Dent's press conference at the beginning, but he wasn't there.
Yeah,
he put his name down, but he gave money towards it, but didn't show up because that's not his prerogative. And then the fact they show up at the party, Knox and Vicky Vale don't know who Bruce. They know the name, but they don't know who he is.
Exactly.
And everything about it indicates that probably everyone at this party doesn't know that that's Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. So it's got the same. He's a very giving person, but he's completely shut off and alienated from absolutely everyone in the world, because the only people you see him interact with beyond Vicky Vale is Alfred. And just things like that are indicating, this is how shut off he is. And you can see that, we've talked about the Christian Bale version is a bit more of it's all raw emotion, and he's giving you everything. Whereas Keaton's all subtlety, and you get, before the flashback, you just get a little bit of a little twitch in his face as he's reminiscing about the parents' murder. And that's as far as you go with him, because it's more like his betrayal is that it's not a developing thing. It's just like he is gone completely nuts, and he's already deep into Batman.
Yeah.
And there's no going back for him. So this is all the information you need is about. It's just there for you already. So I'm quite happy with the betrayal. Again, though, at the same time, I wouldn't have said no to more Michael Keaton in the movie in general.
Well, yeah, and that's like because I think he's a phenomenal actor. Obviously, I agree. I would have wanted more. I would have wanted a little more of that because I think it would have, it would have had because really for me, and I said this in my video about why I think Batman Forever is the best one, and part of it is I end up writing this one off just a little bit as a Batman movie because it becomes a Joker movie. It's a Joker movie with Batman for me a lot more than it is a Batman movie with the Joker.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, obviously I love it. That's why I'm doing this show. But I mean, it's Tim Burton's attention, isn't it? He's into the Joker more, I think. Even though he put himself into Bruce Wayne. That's why Bruce Wayne is a recluse, because Tim Burton wanted to put a little bit of his own personality into it, rather than making him a playboy and things.
Yeah. Oh, we do have, the original draft of the script where they do have, he is millionaire playboy Bruce Wayne. He's out shagging all around the place, and he's hooking up with models. He's out in boats, and that's in the original versions of the script that they ended up retooling into the film again probably through a lot of work with Tim Burton of we'll go this direction with him. And
he made it a bit more like himself, but you can tell that he's very much into the villains. I mean, look at the next film.
Oh yeah,
the next movie is all the villain.
It's pretty hard too, particularly when you have a character like the Joker, where it's even in the Dark Knight is essentially like a Joker movie, but he's only on screen for out of a 2.5 hour movie. He's maybe got about 20 minutes of actual screen time, but he's just such a big character that he owns all.
I tap out of that movie. Yeah, I completely tap out of that movie once he's out of the picture. I'm like, I don't care. This last half hour may as well not exist. Come on, all right, just kill Two-Face and be done.
That should have been the next film, really. Should have been the next.
Right,
one.
It should have been, and because Two-Face is such a great, and that was the thing I was most mad at. I love The Dark Knight, minus that half hour, because not only is it just drag at that point, but you're also now wasting one of Batman's great villains.
Yeah. It is a shame because he would have been so good in a standalone movie. Oh.
Yeah. I'd actually like that. I'll agree with that, but I do like that ending scene because I think it's quite tense. I think it's quite ballsy for a major multi-million-dollar Hollywood blockbuster, where the actual finale is 3 guys in a room just talking things out.
Oh, it's a great ending. Yeah,
it's just literally there's no action except Batman lunging into him at one point and then falling off a thing. But the fact this huge movie that was a massive hit, but it's actually a very intimate little interaction at the end is the climax of the whole thing, which is something I don't think you'd even really see that again up until Civil War kind of ended on it's Batman, it's Iron Man versus Captain America. It's a lot of action, but it is just down to these 2 guys doing a thing.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated it for that. Plus just Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman getting to act up a storm with his "I was trying to fight him up" and all that kind of stuff. So.
Gary Oldman is so I love him in everything. I love him in all the things. He did a Q&A after a screening of what's the movie he just did? Why am I blanking out?
Darkest Hour.
Yeah, Darkest Hour. So he was at a Q&A afterwards, and he stayed after the Q&A to say hello to every single person who wanted to say hi and take pictures with every single person. He's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to hear, because you're never sure if they're going to be that nice. Not in a nasty way, but I mean, if I was a celebrity, I probably would be I need to get home. I need to get out of the way of these people. So that's really nice of you to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, most people do. They're 5 minutes, hello. Okay, now I gotta go. Bye. And he's stuck in. I mean, my friend and I, at the end, we were like, we have to pee more than we have to meet Gary Oldman. So we went to the bathroom, and we came back, and he was still there. And we're like, I guess we got to meet Gary Oldman now.
Hey.
Anyway, we still got.
Oh yeah, Batman.
After Barbara Kalish or Bob, I see the name, I keep thinking Bob Kalash, like the Cobb Kalash.
Bob Kalash.
No Mountain Dew, crab juice.
So my favorite name in all of these credits here was Mike Proudfoot.
That's a good name.
That's a Hobbit's name. He has a Hobbit's name. I got so excited. Yeah, proud feet. And he's a camera operator, and so I looked at. I mean, he's had a decent career. He was on Harry Potter, the last one, the very very last one. He was a camera operator for Defiance, for Knight's Tale, but he was not a camera operator for the Fellowship of the Ring or any of the Lord of the Rings or Hobbit movies, and I was so disappointed.
I would have hired him on principle, just the name.
Right? That's like, you should have been immediately like, oh my God, this guy, I would have called him up, I would have flown to New Zealand, whatever it took. Mike Proudfoot was going to be my camera op for at least that scene, at least the scene where, you know, the Proud Feet scene. Jeez. Funny, I found a funny connection too in here, because the other person that I really liked was Nick Dudman. He was the Joker makeup designer, and I was like, that's awesome. He also, he reunited, probably never saw him, with Mike Proudfoot on the last Harry Potter movie. So
maybe they were good friends.
Probably,
who knows?
Maybe. Odds are they never met. One was on. Unless though, I guess for this one, if he was the makeup designer, he was probably on set with Jack Nicholson, touching up the makeup all the time. So
every 10 minutes, yeah.
Right. Every cut, all right, you know, wipe down, reapply, etc.
Well, there's a couple of people in here though who actually have, you know, crossover, like with like, oh, maybe these are all friends and they meet up in all these movies, because like we have like Mike Proudfoot worked on King Ralph, the John Goodman classic King Ralph.
Oh boy!
And then King Cake Boss Ralph. What?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the biopic of a previous guest, Cake Boss Ralph. Who was the Cake King at the end? Yeah, of course.
Hey.
But yeah, then we have later on Graham Churchyard, who worked on King Ralph as well. And throughout this movie, we've come across a whole bunch of people who are on King Ralph. So it's like, hey, must have been a grand old, like a great reunion for everybody involved. But
what's
like,
going on?
You're working on this sack of crap too? Oh, great. One name that popped out to me was Les Tompkins, just because it's so close to Leslie Thompson from the famous Batman character, now played by Morena Baccarin in Gotham. I'm told, I don't watch Gotham because I tried and I just can't.
Yeah,
but
don't watch it.
She's pretty impressive old list of stuff she's been working on though. She within The Shining with Saucy Jack again, Yentl, National Lampoon's European Vacation, which was, as far as I've seen, the worst of the vacations, but whatever. Of course, in there again with Kubrick, Full Metal Jacket, Judge Dredd, Tomb Raider, which several other people in the credits here have also worked on.
Wait, which Tomb Raider? The old one?
Yes.
Yeah.
The upcoming
Angelina Jolie.
Although the thing is, like, I didn't like that movie, and then I really loved that Tomb Raider rebooted game, and then I've seen the trailers for this new version, and it looks as bad as the old one. It's like, did you not learn anything from the? I see you're just ripping off entire plot elements and having like, oh, that bit where she walks on the wing, that's a bit of the game. I got that.
Yeah.
But
I think the only point to this new Tomb Raider is they're like, look, we're gonna have this action adventure chick, but we're gonna make her breasts small this time.
Yeah,
because that's
they're not big this time.
I'm sure they'll have wonderfully choreographed action sequences.
By the time this comes out, it's probably like regarded as the greatest action movie of the modern times.
They also have then Chris Brock, not Chris Rock, who
sadly, or Brock Lesnar. Sadly,
yeah, he was the assistant director on Alien 3. Of course, we've had several actors pop up throughout the movie who were in Alien 3.
I am a fan of Alien 3. No one else seems to be.
But he was also location manager on Tomb Raider, and worked on High Spirits, which we've mentioned several times already as well. And then he worked on Jewel of the Nile, obviously Danny DeVito in it, so there's a connection right there. And also The Saint with Val Kilmer, who would go on to become
the blonde Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I would have said it's a debate for a later time, but I was like, well, the worst Batman, but I don't know. So we'll see.
I don't know. I can't decide between him and Clooney. You know, who's the worst?
It's a real battle between him and Clooney.
I prefer Kilmer, but I think for me, I always come upon this with George Clooney in various movies. I adore George Clooney. He is never not George Clooney.
Yes, we've said this actually. Yeah, he's 100% just playing George Clooney. He's not being Batman. He's not being Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
He's smirking in every scene as well. He literally comes in like Alfred's lying on death's door and he's still smirking away like, oh, well, you'll be fine, old man. Bruce, your father's dying, you idiot. What are you doing?
He's one that he needs to be. It's like Keanu Reeves, right? If you cast for him, that's fine. If you put him in a role where he's meant to play, like Ocean's 11, George Clooney is fantastic. Point Break was the role that Keanu Reeves was made to play. But if you try to like put them into something real, like Keanu Reeves doing Shakespeare or George Clooney trying to be Batman, you're like, it just doesn't. They don't step into the part the way that another actor does.
Or everyone's favorite, of course, Keanu in Dracula.
Oh, of course.
That's a great accent, Keanu. Good work.
Good job. Good effort.
To be fair though, like everyone in that Dracula is just like on different levels.
Ridiculous.
Like,
no continuity.
He's doing that. Winona's doing something. Gary Oldman's great, but he's going just f***ing bonkers in that movie.
That's why I love the movie, because of what he's doing.
What the hell
is he doing?
Gary Oldman's performance is just like, it's captivating and absurd, and it's why.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I can imagine Coppola standing behind the camera, like him coming in and giving us nuanced performances, like more, bigger, damn it, just go, scream up the top of your lungs. I was like, there's nothing happening in the scene, but just do it, damn it, every scene. But even then, like Anthony Hopkins coming in, just been like this weird. What's the way you can't say Nosferatu properly? It's just like it is a vampire.
Yeah.
Nosferatu. It's like Jesus Christ, you fucking move for the ham in this damn movie. It's just everywhere.
I have a credit that I particularly liked. I only have one thing to say about it, but I thought it was interesting. We have Miss Basinger's hairdresser, Rick Provenzano. Now, when I looked into him, he was the hairstylist on Family Ties and Edward Scissorhands. So, Tim brings him back for Edward Scissorhands. But if you look through his history, he has a habit of working with 3 people in particular on their hair.
Yeah.
Now, he does Kim Basinger, obviously. He keeps coming back, keeps doing her hair. Michael J. Fox, not exactly known for his great hair. Let's be honest. No, I mean, he hasn't got bad hair.
He has hair.
He has hair, yes. And Alec Baldwin, who does have a good head of hair. So Michael J. Fox is sort of the standout there.
Well, I think what we've learned from this is that your hairdresser is very good at the coif. He's good at the coiffing.
Well, his last set of credits are all for Pierce Brosnan. Exclusively doing Pierce Brosnan's hair in the last few years there of his career.
The thing is, it's weird though, because did he die? Like, where's he gone? Because he doesn't do. It seems to be like he's on like the worst of Baldwin as well. It's not like it's like Baldwin went to town with task for this guy. It's like, oh, he's my guy. This is the guy I get to do my hair. Unless you can hire somebody better, and then of course you can. anyone else can do it. Because it's all like stuff like Thick as Thieves, The Confession, like Heaven's Prisoners, The Shadow, which is that's a
This
thing.
was the guy. This was the guy that Baldwin hired when the budget wouldn't let him hire his real hairstylist.
Yeah,
his normal.
Because then no sign of him in like 7 years of 30 Rock or however long that went for.
I mean, maybe he just retired or took long vacations.
He must have retired.
Well, the thing is though, because he's working with Kim and Alec, but obviously they were married, so it's like, and on the Getaway. He's the hairstylist to both of them. So I have a feeling if you ever want to get into like the nitty gritty of what was happening in the Baldwin Basinger marriage, Rick Provenzano is the guy you want to tap for information because he's privy to everything.
Wow.
Well, Rick, if you're out there listening and you're alive, I mean, even if you're dead, come on the show.
Definitely.
We'll have you on.
Yeah, definitely. If you're dead,
I wonder if anyone's ever done that for a podcast. Like if we could do that for a podcast of like get a seance going so we can interview like a dead hairstylist for Alec Baldwin.
That would that's like immediate viral material right there.
You heard it here first.
One of the other names that popped out to me was Cheryl Lee, which is obviously not around anymore because she's dead, wrapped in plastic. Cheryl Lee. That was appropriate because she's on the minute 119. So like 119.
119. I bet there's like one Twin Peaks fan listening going, oh yeah, I know that.
But yeah, Cheryl Lee, different spelling to the actress, Cheryl Lee. But she worked on Supergirl, Superman 4. Well, they had a couple of people like Billy Hookins was on Superman 4
Superman
as well.
4, The Quest for Milton Keynes.
The Great Muppet Caper, the canon classic Life Force, and apparently he was she worked on a version of Frankenstein in the 90s that starred Patrick Bergin and Randy Quaid as the monster. And I was like, what? How have I not heard about that? So, I know what I'm watching tonight, so anyway, I'll tell you that.
Well, one thing I love about this particular credit minute is you have the transition from the Batman theme to the music that comes after the Batman theme, which it works because it doesn't, you know, in the same way like so much of the rest of the film does, where you have this really dramatic, dark Danny Elfman theme, and then just, you know, pop in a tape and we're rocking out to Prince now. Woo! So now you have this moment where like you have theme, and then we just transition into this weirdly romantic track, which is funny because nothing in this movie is remotely romantic. I mean, I would even say that the stuff that happens between Vicky and Bruce is more sexy than romantic for the most part.
So why would you hire the most romantic and sensual songwriter?
Right?
I think that's the thing, though. They couldn't help but have that coming, though. It's like, if you're hiring Prince, it's like, well, you'll get a couple of party songs, but like, he's gonna crack out the sexy and the romantic eventually. Like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna burst forth from the seams. It's gonna be in the movie whether you want it or not. Just an unfortunate thing. He'll sneak into the editing room and put it in him damn self. So.
Yeah. So that was fun, and I also think it's interesting how listening to it. I also read something where Tim Burton was talking about how, like, his Batman theme is the only Batman theme, and that's it. End of story. End of discussion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which
it was Danny Elfman. Yeah, with the Justice League business.
Yeah.
Like, he sneaked it in.
He's like,
and I was like, oh, so is it gonna be really prominent? It's like, no, it's like a couple of seconds.
Just there.
One scene.
She's right there. But I thought it was interesting how sort of like I mean, even Elliot Goldenthal in Batman Forever, etc., stuck with that very much. Like, I mean, there were things added, and there were a lot more grandiose elements in Forever, but kind of stuck with the general gist of that. So I think it worked. I think that's sort of one of the big things that unifies those four Batman films. You know, that same sort of soundtrack. Even when things change a little, you go from like the almost steampunk Gotham to a lot more colorful, various comic booky interpretations of a Gotham City, and you have different Batmans and different villains and villains acting in different ways, but you have that sort of the nice brass that brings it all together.
It is good to have some kind of through line because nothing else is connected in any way.
Exactly. And I do love, in sort of a similar way, that you have the Prince interjections in this one. You have the like mid-90s angsty rock in Forever. And the funny thing to me is, obviously, Prince is the far superior, musician to anything that was, to like Seal's Kiss from a Rose or something. But that tonally, I think, worked more seamlessly into Batman Forever than Prince worked into this one.
Yeah.
What I liked about this one is how they made it diegetic so often. And that's what made it work. I mean, because it worked with the freneticism of the Joker's character of just, okay, we're doing this weirdo thing now, and then it just.
I think it's the only way to really get those songs that he delivered into this film.
Absolutely.
You couldn't just play them as music.
No.
As the soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's like we're at that stage though, where like we're really out of that, unless it's because I'm just not paying enough attention to the charts these days, but. Because the 90s was a real prime time for like the tie-in single.
Yeah.
Like that whole summer, 95 was hold me, thrill me, kill me, kiss from a rose, just coming at you every damn angle, along with every poster was Batman Forever was huge, and the singles were like, even the music charts, you can't get away from this thing. And then, even then, you obviously in 97, Men in Black was just like, you can't get away from this. Will Smith is the Men in Black thing, was huge.
Deeper Underground, that was a big one.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And the thing is, around the early 2000s, starts to peter out, because you had that Chad Kroeger Spider-Man one that no one really gave a crap about. And then Spider-Man 2 was that We Are song by some sweetie.
Oh, but only in the UK, if you remember, Niall. We found out from Scott Corelli on Spider-Man Minute that in the US there was a different song for Spider-Man 2.
Oh, yeah, but maybe they're just hedging their bets.
They're like, you guys are going to like this one. The Americans are going to like that one. I honestly don't remember which one it was at this point.
But now I find out, like, even as, far back, a couple of years back, like X-Men First Class, like Take That had a single to do with that.
What?
And I was like, I did not know that until I was in the cinema. And at the end, I was like, that sounds like Take That.
I guarantee the movie that killed this was the Limp Bizkit track for Mission Impossible 2.
Oh.
Because that hit in about 2000, 2001,
Yep.
and that just probably killed the trend. Everyone was like, nope, Limp Bizkit has touched this now. We can't ever do this again.
Hey,
this will never work anymore.
Tell you what, I was the perfect
age.
age for that, though. I bought that single.
Oh, I did as well. Look, guilty as charged. I loved that movie. I had the soundtrack and the music inspired by.
Hell yeah.
Which was actually ended up being my first Metallica song.
Oh.
Like my first Chris Cornell track. I went back, because growing up, I didn't know anything. My first Buck Cherry song. And you go back and look at these artists, and you're like, oh my goodness, this was a formative musical time for me in some ways that were not entirely awful.
Well, one of the ones that was slightly confusing is that people, now you have the unstoppable meme that is All Star, the Smash Mouth, and that was for Mystery Men, but it was also for Shrek, and it's now way more associated with Shrek than it ever was with Mystery Men.
Yeah.
So it's it's around the same time. It's like, this is starting to die a bit now. These songs are a bit kind of crappy.
Yeah.
And then you get your first Chad Kroeger Spider-Man one, and it's like, okay, we maybe could survive this. And then he does one for Daredevil, and it's like the world closed his briefcase and went like, we're done.
Forget
here. And just walked away and never came back.
The thing that made me mad about Smash Mouth and Shrek was their Monkeys cover, and then having to grow up in a world where people my age thought that that Smash Mouth wrote "I'm a Believer."
Oh no, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's
that's upsetting to me. As someone who had heard the Monkeys version, as a small child, upsetting, very upsetting. So.
You've ruined my day now.
I'm sorry. Think happy thoughts. Just think about Jimi Hendrix's cover of All Along the Watchtower.
Yes.
Like, how did Smash Mouth haven't survived Shrek, but then isn't it always eels are always played in it though? It's always is it My Beloved Monster or something? Is always in all the Shrek movies, but eels are still regarded as very artistic and very highly credible band. Yeah. Why aren't they getting the Shrek crap? Like, what
Smash Mouth were terrible all along.
Yeah. That's Neil Cicierega did a mashup album called Mouth Sounds, and it's just all mashups with mostly All Star, but then with other various of their songs. There's one where I think he mashes up. I want to say it was All Star with like Imagine by John Lennon, and it's. The funny thing is, like, musically, what he's doing with it is actually kind of artistic and interesting, but just viscerally, it's very upsetting. It's just two things that don't belong together.
Anywho, speaking of the music, though, one of the big name that leapt out of the page out of the screen to me here is that goes through as the Elfman score is finishing, because you have orchestration by Steve Bartek and then conductor Shirley Walker, which is, if you know your Batman music, that's huge that Shirley Walker's here, because Shirley Walker then went on to do all the music for the Batman animated series. So if you know that, that's Shirley Walker, created that theme. Did all the music for Mask of the Phantasm, which is up there with this movie. For me, it's neck and neck as the best Batman soundtrack you're ever going to get. It's like phenomenal stuff. So, Shirley Walker, big old career, tragically died a couple of years back, in 2006, I believe, from complications following a stroke only at age 61. But she was one of the first female composers to get a solo score credit for a major motion picture.
Wow.
For the work she did on, weirdly enough, John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man, considering John Carpenter usually does his own music. When he didn't, he got in Shirley Walker, and she got all this acclaim for it.
Wow.
She began a career doing the synth work on Apocalypse Now, which is a big way to start a career. And then was the conductor on several movies, from Scrooged. She was on National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which, obviously the music on that was done by Angelo Badalamenti. Or, of course, Twin Peaks.
It blows my mind that he did that.
Yeah. And shout out to those guys. We were on that show, the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation days. I know then that she's also conductor on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and I distinctly remember that because as a member of the Turtles Minutes group on Facebook, when they didn't mention Shirley Walker was the conductor, they got so much because they were just like, people, how can you just skip over Shirley Walker? So we're covering our asses here by getting
Can't lose those fans.
And then did work for Dick Tracy, obviously thought of as been a bit too influenced by this movie in particular, a lot of it. Worked on Darkman, Arachnophobia, was the conductor on Edward Scissorhands, and then she worked with Elfman again with the themes for The Flash and Nightbreed. And beyond that, she did the music for Ghoulies, Final Destination, and Willard, the weird Crispin Glover talks to rats movie. So yeah, she's
been busy.
Absolute legend of music. Shirley Walker. Like, if you haven't heard the soundtrack to Mask of the Phantasm, I highly recommend you do so, because it's all on YouTube, and it's like from the off, it just blows your socks off, man. So.
Well, I saw another credit that I decided to look into because I saw assistant to Mr. Nicholson, Annie Marshall. So I thought, okay, maybe there's something interesting going on with his assistant. It ended up being quite depressing, though. Sorry to ruin it for you. But anyway, she only worked on 6 productions, and each of them was as an assistant to Jack. And I wondered why, why did she then stop? So I dug a little deeper. She retired after the 6th one because she discovered she had a brain tumor. But apparently Jack Nicholson then looked after her, like financially and stuff.
Aww.
Which lends credence to that story we heard, Niall, of him being a nice guy.
Yeah, I've always heard that, actually. I've always heard that he's a good dude. That he's himself. He's not but he doesn't fit anyone's definition of normal. But that he's like a nice person. He's not, arrogant or rude to people.
Yeah, well, we had one story, like an interview of from Mac McDonald, who's the kind of heavy-set Joker goon who you see throughout the movie, and he didn't like Jack. He was a prolonged interview going on about like, oh, he's an asshole. And then every single other person who interacted with him was like, he's the nicest guy in the world. He will bend over backwards for you. It's all stories about like some guy who worked with him was in a motorbike crash, and then he got like an unsolicited check from Jack Nicholson covering all his medical costs. And it's like, this guy seems like he's solid gold, this guy.
Yeah.
Apparently, whatever happened with Mac McDonald. I'm guessing maybe Jack was like, it's Mac McDonald. I'm assuming. I'm going to go ahead and assume that he's the asshole.
It's possible. Yeah. We're going to tell you, it's possible that they just didn't get along, and they were both. I mean, there could be mutual assholery going on.
True.
It's it happens. You're not going to be, just because you're a nice and good person doesn't mean you're going to be nice to everybody. Well,
if you want to explain yourself, Jack, come on, now's the time.
The door is open. The windows. Maybe you guys can have a show where the two of them come on and make amends.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes. I mean, I know, of course, Jack listens to this program.
Obviously.
He has to.
What else would he be doing with his time? Come on.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, we've only got like two or three more minutes to go. So it's like, hey, because once we get the returns, we don't go back. It's not like, Jack doesn't come kicking in the door begging to get on the show.
This is it.
It's like, no, we're covering returns now. We can't backtrack to the first one. You crazy? No. It's all forward.
It's like a shark. If you stop swimming, you die.
Because it's usually, like, at this point, we'd ask the guests if they have like a particular history with this movie and like with Batman in general. And I know it's like you came to my attention from getting a video thrust at me on YouTube, my YouTube recommendations of like why Batman Forever is the best Batman movie. Because apparently YouTube would figure I would want to watch something like that. But
I guess so. Well, that's my channel is very much purposely. I mean, that I think I can't remember if I put that in the Meant to Offend series or not, but I might have. I have a series that's specifically it's saying things that people are going to react to. One of them is, and I think this is the most hilarious one, is eat more vegans. And if you are familiar with Jonathan Swift and his famous Modest Proposal essay, it's very, very clearly just blatantly inspired by that. And I'm doing the same kind of thing he is. But it's really funny because all of the vegans just get really, really mad and think I'm being a jerk and don't understand it. So that's been really fun in the comment sections to go back and be like, you think you're smart, but you're actually not. But anyway, I digress. I do have... my strongest connection with Batman, I mean, I got into Batman, he was my first, probably my first hero ever, my first, human role model as a person. I was little, I had a, foot-high Batman action figure with the cape and everything, and it was hard plastic, and I'd sleep with it in my bed. I made my mom play Batman and Robin with me. I was always Batman, obviously.
Of course, who wants to be Robin? I had
a recurring dream actually where I was Batman and I could get to my Batcave through a little cave in my home, and it happened. This went on for weeks and weeks and weeks when I was a child, and I was obsessed with the animated show. I had the books, before I was even able to digest comic books. I was reading the little picture books that they sort of adapted from the comics for the kids, and the best thing probably that ever happened in my entire childhood. I have no memory of this, but I've been told this by several family members that when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, we were all at my grandma's house for some family occasion, and my aunt and cousins or something, they were in their room that they would come to visit, were staying in, and I burst into the room wearing absolutely nothing but my little blue blanket tied around my neck as a cape, and announced, "I'm Batman." And then I proceeded to run around the house, buck naked, except for the cape, proclaiming to whoever would listen that I was Batman.
Did you do the voice? I'm Batman.
I probably to the best of my 5-year-old ability, but it probably sounded something more like, "I'm Batman." But yeah, I mean, I had toys and this, and I was obsessed. That was my thing. That was what was important. I liked Batman more than any of my other dolls. He did go on the occasional date with a Barbie, but he was very lucky.
Oh, it's ironic though, because then Michael Keaton would go on to voice Ken in Toy Story 3 as well. It's it's a weird bit of synergy there.
Yeah, it all makes the world's all connected. It all makes sense.
It's all connected.
But yeah, and I think he fit with my, who I was, especially. I was always a little different, and a little outcasted, and so I related. I related to the, dark, brooding guy who doesn't quite fall within the lines, kind of wants to do his own thing, and he's very subversive of authority too, which is something that that's a genetic trait I was born with, apparently. So that we have that in common.
The best way to be.
Of course. Of course. It's boring any other way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, assuming though, would you want to come back for? Actually, no. Did you have one thing? Do you have this particular Batman film? Do you remember the first time you saw it or anything, or do you remember what your first Batman movie was? I'm assuming
it was an animated one. It was definitely something animated. I'm pretty sure. I think, probably, or it might have been. I mean, it could have been Forever. It's possible, because I think when this one came out, I was too young to have seen it, when it came out. Likewise, so I think Batman Forever was probably the first one that I was old enough to. I probably wasn't even old enough to see that when it came out, but I feel like I did anyway. I don't know. My parents were probably like, "It's Batman. She loves Batman. It'll be fine." And I know I saw this one and I saw Returns on TV, just. And Batman and Robin, all of them just at various points, they just came on TV, or maybe we rented them and it was just getting the Bat canon going. And for me, I always loved the Joker. So in my memory, like the Jack Nicholson Joker sort of just bleeds into the animated series Joker and the ones that came off the pictures, and it's all sort of just part of my always memories, kind of.
I think it was my memory of first seeing the animated series Joker was I wasn't able to play, like I was really at odds in my head because the only version of the Joker I knew was Jack Nicholson. And then, so I was just like, yeah, the Joker's like a pudgy 52-year-old man. And then seeing like, oh, the guy like a skinny, like kind of, yeah, a guy with like full head of hair and stuff was like, but what? This doesn't look like the Joker at all.
I would have seen the animated one first and then seeing him come to life. I think I just accepted it. I think it was young enough that I just accepted it. I was like, yep, that seems, he's the Joker. I believe it. I buy it.
Oh, fair enough. I think though, like, if you want to come back for Batman Returns when we're covering that, later in the year, we'll promise we can get you some actual footage to talk about.
No,
this time.
You've got to have credits.
I'm just going to be the credits person. That would be kind of fun. I'll just do this one. I'll do like a couple of the credits on Returns, and then I just want to be on every single episode of Batman Forever. That's all.
The thing is, like, I think the credits are for forever going to be, because people have already talked about like, oh, can't wait to get into Kiss from a Rose and stuff. So I think the end credits of that.
Everyone else can have the credits for forever. Yeah. That's probably everyone else. Everyone else is like, I just want the music. I don't give a rat's ass about the rest of the damn movie, so I can just have the whole movie and they can have the credits. It's fine.
I do genuinely think it's gonna be contested of people. I'm like, no, I want to cover the end credits of that movie. It's like, oh Christ, I don't know. It's like up there when those guys doing Buckaroo Banzai. It's like, well, everyone's just going to want to do that bit at the end with the music interlude where they're all walking down the storm drain.
Yeah.
Who gives a crap about the rest of the movie? That's
the only
part anyone likes.
That's the important part. Well, I give a crap about all of Batman Forever, so don't worry. I'll cover any minute you want, as long as I definitely get the Holy Rusted Metal line. Because that's probably the greatest line ever written in cinema.
Well, we'll try and keep that one in mind. And before we head off into the dark night, Jessi, would you like to tell our good listeners where they can find you online if they want to check out anything you're up to?
Absolutely. So you can find me most prominently on YouTube. My channel is Mindless Entertainment, and I yell about things I care about. A lot of nerd stuff. So we get some Batman, you get some Star Trek, you get a lot of Star Wars. That's like my bread and butter there. You can check me out on Twitter, where I very occasionally post at Jessi Milestone. It's Jessi Milestone, exactly the way you'd expect. And I'm actually doing a new podcast for Adrian Paul, who played Duncan MacLeod in the Highlander series. Ooh. He runs a Sword Experience, which is like fantasy baseball camp for sword nerds.
Amazing.
And he's doing a podcast series about it. I'm co-hosting it with a friend of mine. So that's the Sword Experience podcast. And yeah, it's super fun. I think our first episode just went out last week. So if you're into swords, we also break down a lot of sword fights from movies, all different kinds of movies, all different kinds of genres. I definitely give that a check. Check that out if swords are your thing. So
that sounds amazing. I'm really on board with that already.
It's fun. Yeah, I've been a fencer for like 15 years now. So
I did it for 1 month.
That's less time, but that's okay.
You mentioned there earlier, though, just reminded me of like, if I wanted this episode to go on for about 5 hours, I could just do the simple thing of, oh, John, you liked The Last Jedi, didn't you? I could just say hello to Jessi here, because she did not care for it.
Oh, see, I absolutely loved it, but that's for another time.
Well, I have 24 minutes right up waiting for you on my YouTube channel, explaining exactly how I feel about it, and then probably between the subsequent videos that touch on the subject, another half an hour to an hour that you can also enjoy.
Well, if you feel like that would be your kind of thing, listeners, check that out as well. I won't discriminate. Give it a go.
And check back with us, because we will. Now, what day is this episode?
This episode is, of course, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I believe it's Wednesday.
So check back with us on Friday, because we will have more Bat Minute 89. We'll have minute 120. Yes, folks, it's the penultimate episode.
Next time, a multitude of monograms. As the film closes, it's not all doom and gloom, as our way is lit by more yellow gnomed plumes. But which purple-loving pop artist with a powerful pompadour is going to skip the foreplay and get down on the floor? Find out Friday, same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.